Well, welcome everybody to Striving to Thriving, Redefining Success. I am so excited that you're here. And my name is Barbara Ellison. I'm going to be your host right now. And I am just absolutely blessed to have great guests. We are going to be having a great conversation about redefining success. But anyways, I'm for myself, I'm a transformational life trainer. I work with late career business professionals who are facing retirement and they have no idea of who they are outside of their job titles and their job descriptions. And so that's what I help them to do. And my clock went off. We love live shows. Anyway,
Absolutely.
and so, anyways, so we will be having a great show. We're going to be so excited to have you here. Stay tuned, share it out to people. Anyways, but I just want to introduce you to my wonderful co host, Elizabeth. So, Elizabeth, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? So, tell us about you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Barbara, for this opportunity to meet with our friends. My name is Elizabeth Usoro. I'm a licensed financial professional, and I talk to people about money concepts and money strategies. So for me, it's an amazing journey. And along the line, I met my wonderful friend, English Simone. The first thing that drew me to her was I thought English was a language. I didn't know it was a name. And so, and so when I asked her, hey, what are you doing bearing English? And she said, that's my name. You got to ask my mama. So that was the first thing that endeared me to her. And she's wonderful inside and out. So today I want to introduce to you my sister and my friend, English Simone.
Okay. All
Ooh,
right.
thank
Welcome to
you.
the show, English.
Yes, yes, I'm excited to be here. And I remember that moment. But you know what, Elizabeth, she look, we have our own little inner workings and jokes, and she's hilarious, y'all. Don't let her fool you. She is hilarious and she keeps me giggling all the time. But I'm so honored to be here. And thank you for making the connection with Miss Barbara. I'm looking forward to the conversation, just being in a space where um life is always turning, and I think of turning in life like you're kind of kneading dough. You're forming slowly but surely, and we're going to get there. And so for me, that molding and that kneading and that transformation came and positioned me to where I can be a writer, advocate, and soul motivator. And what that looks like for me is just creating spaces and avenues and resources for youth and their families in spaces of mental and behavioral health. So I work with different entities, companies, and nonprofits to help, assess their programs and support their programs, or to create new programs altogether. So anytime you hear me speak, you see me or hear my name, you best believe it's mental and behavioral health involved, and that comes from a long line of experiences that I'm sure we'll get into today.
Right. And that's one of the reasons. So I'll tell you a little bit of backstory of why I created the show. Um, a friend of mine had said, Barb, we need, I'm doing a LinkedIn Live, and she was doing it on collaboration of how we all collaborate with each other. And that's really the wave of the future. We do
Mm.
need to collaborate because we can do so much more together than we ever can apart or we ever can on our own. And I'm telling you honestly, I resisted for such a long time. It was like, ooh, no, a LinkedIn Live show. It's like, yeah, no, because I was quite happy with doing my podcast. And then one day it was like I call them instant downloads. There are certain subjects that people do not talk about.
That's
They
true.
don't talk. They talk about when they're striving. Oh yeah, and woe is me. Everything is going wrong. They talk about when they're thriving. Oh, look at me. I've got the Mercedes. I've got this. I've got that. They don't talk about the journey in between. And
Right.
sometimes it's the journey in between that is where all of the gold is
Yeah.
of the getting better of healing whatever caused the trauma. And most of the times it's from the fact of from when we were kids,
That's
and
true.
as adults we're still working on
In the
stuff
past.
from our kids, from when we were kids, from our past. And that's kind of, and lots of times our journey starts with either a trauma or something happens. In my case, it was a loss. I lost my husband 13 years ago. I mean, when we got married, I expected to dance at my great-grandchildren's weddings. Well, that didn't happen. And at 61, I was a widow. The thing is when I woke up from my widow's fog, I realized in that moment that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself of being a daughter and being a wife and being a mother and then a divorced failure. Oh, but then I was a successful wife again. And then I was a grandmother and a business owner. And now I'm a widow. Who is Barbara in all of that? And it was absolutely the scariest moment of my life. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? Because it was like, Barbara, David has died. You have not. What are you going to do? And I had no idea, absolutely no idea. But then one day I was sitting there and got a phone call and said, would you be interested in learning how to do online marketing? I went, what? Something so totally foreign to what I had ever done. I said, but you know what? Maybe something different is going to be the thing that's going to give me like the jump start to get myself going again. And that's exactly what it did, because it was a series of events that I met the people that I was supposed to meet. And now I love the fact that I can work with people who are in the same boat that I was. They have no idea of who they are, men and women who have no idea of who they are outside of their job title or their job description. And they don't know that there can be anything else outside of that, because they have been, after they came out of college, they got a job, they got a career. Well, then of course they've got the bills to pay. Now you don't want to get rid of the job, because well, how are you going to pay for the lifestyle? And it just becomes this huge thing. And so now it is just such a pleasure to work with people to say, hey, you know what, who are you within what you're doing? And let's see where you are now. And let's get you ready so that when it does come time for you to retire and leave the corporate or whatever your job is, or profession or whatever it is, you're going to be ready and you're going to make the transition. And it is just so rewarding. I love when I see the light bulb go on, that, oh, I can do this. Oh, that's what I want to do. And chances are it starts with, oh, when I was a kid, I always wanted to do this. So that's kind of my story and how I got involved in this. And then back to doing this show, it was like, Barbara, you know what? It was a download that this needs to be talked about. And so if people are going to start talking about it, they're going to start doing it through you. And I have had so many people that have come on and all said the same thing. Barb, this is such a needed subject. We need to be talking about it, because we've got generations of kids coming up and they have no idea outside of what they're doing here on this with their thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be talked about. For myself, I want to advocate for having it starting in like grade school, in high school, because people are coming up and they're not making it. Anyway, so that's me in it. So Elizabeth, tell us about you. Tell us your story and how you got to be in all the fun things, all the juicy facts.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for such a fun facts backstory, because guess what? Everybody is stuck in the now. Nobody has time to process a lot of things. So you just wake up today and then what am I supposed to do? You jump around. You don't even have time to sit down and think. You don't even have time to sit down and assess, evaluate, what am I doing now? What am I supposed to do? What should I have done? Where am I going? What do I want to achieve? So because everybody is in such a fast-paced motion, I don't blame any of them for it, because that's where I came from. I came to this country a few years ago. And then when I came, it was like, not what I thought. Because when you're in Africa, seeing the movies in LA, America is heaven. And then I get here and I had to sell cars. I had an online store. I had an online kitchen. You just name it, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to get ahead. This is dollars we are talking about. I need these dollars.
Right.
They said, oh, you have to go to school. I went to school. What do you mean? You have to get a job. I worked at the Home Depot. And all my kids were all born in in Nigeria. You have to have one in America, and I got a made in America child. So, so what are we talking about? So, you name it, I did it.
Right.
But for me, I always wanted to serve. So I've always been a churchy person. I serve in the children's ministry. I serve in the women's ministry. So I love to serve. And then when it was time to go to school, they said, hey, you got to be a nurse, because if you're a nurse, you're going to save a lot of people. I said, yes, I like that. And I was in school. But then my path of career now found me, because when you're a nurse, you give them good health, but then you damage their pockets.
Right.
So at the end of the day, what you did that was good is you kept them alive with some more things to think about, like paying off those medical bills. So fulfillment didn't come for me so much with that. So how do I feel fulfilled? When I talk to people and then I say, hey, you hear Barbara's story? She got married with the hope of dancing. I had great grandbabies.
Yeah.
Wedding, graduation, and all of those fun things. Everybody wants to live to a good old age, but nobody plans.
Right.
So now you are old, you can't go to work. How do you sustain yourself? So if you plan to be old, then you need to make a plan to have a good old age, because now you need to pay off your mortgage, you need to pay off this, and then you need to live a comfortable life as an old person. So I help people with 6 key things. Inflation, because guess what? $2,000, $100 in 2000 is not $100 in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Truly
Yeah.
ain't.
So I help people with 6 key things. But the first thing is redirecting your mind. What did you want to do? What do you want to do? How are you making the conscious decision to walk on that path to achieve your dreams?
Right.
So that is what I do. Sit down with you, have that conversation, and believe me, it's not a lot of decisions that people think about every day. So they don't even make it. So that's one decision they don't make. But after a conversation with me, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, 10, it gives you that, something to think about. And I am happy, because at the end of the day, the questions start pouring in. These are questions you should have asked yourself like from the get-go. But because we don't have time to sit down and pause and think, before you close your eyes and go to bed, you ask yourself a question. And then that question is a text that is sent to Miss Elizabeth. I'll talk to you at break time tomorrow. Can you just, So that gives me joy, because at the end of the day, you don't get to where you thought you should be and then realize you were not planned, you were not prepared.
Yeah. That's me. I did not plan to be a widow at 61. And yet I look back now and go, what was I thinking? Because like life is not, I mean, it's not guaranteed, but
No,
I
it's not.
really, but it threw me for a loop. It just knocked the wind out of me. And then I think we have to give ourselves grace when something like that happens, and then to give ourselves grace to go on and to get help. So, I mean, for the longest time, I wasn't willing to. It's like, well, what are people going to think if I ask for help? Yeah, well, then I realized that I couldn't do it on my own, and that's when I got a coach, and that of course led everything else to me being a coach now myself, because now I've been there, done that. Yeah, absolutely. How about for you, English Simone?
Oh man. And just being in this space is like it's a surround sound of wisdom, and I absolutely love it. And between the both of you, I should say, you've touched on so much that it builds on what I want for our youth and our families, right? Because we all coming from different backgrounds, and had you asked 6-year-old me, I was a doctor with 4 kids, my mansion, and my beautiful husband, and it was just a miraculous life that I led, and then, but even further, you had to ask 6-year-old me, I wouldn't have even made a B throughout school. Oh, I knew life was going to take me for a loop when I made my first B in the 11th grade, and I had an entire conniption, and I just knew then it was not going to go right. I just knew. But, aside from my dreams, I'm a believer in God, and God said, okay, I love your dream, but I got something for you. Surprise. Granted, I did well in school, and I was able to go to college, and I did those things. And on the surface, it looked great. A young lady thriving and surviving, but underneath, we're learning ourselves. And at that point, even dealing with parental issues in terms of what my family was going through on the back end. I've always been the load carrier. I've always been the listening ear. I've always had the heart that was open to everyone. But guess what? I hadn't learned at that time was how to manage that weight that you carry when taking on those roles. So I'm trying to do classes. I'm taking like the fullest amount possible, and working 2 jobs, and trying to have a relationship, and trying to maintain friendships that I brought with me from home to college. And guess what I did? I burned out. And I distinctly remember a night where I just literally rocked myself in the dark and just cried because I was at my end. I was at my end. And fast forward, not only was I like on the cusp mentally, but that's when I brought my first baby into the world around that time. So now it's like, oh my gosh. So if for me, maybe not as early as some, but life started to pick up quickly. And, fast forward into parenthood, I began to experience things from the standpoint as a parent. And I began to see things and hear things, and my children began to go through things that resembled that dark space that I was in when I was in college. So knowing that my kids were experiencing some of the things that I felt at that age, it reminded me of how fragile our children are and how ill-equipped their families are to help support them. And so that put me in a space I had to explore further, but not just for myself this time. I'm fighting for my kids at this point, because like I had to tell myself, I was making decent at one point, but I always said, I don't ever want to have money to replace me. I want my children to be able to say that, mommy was there. Yeah, we might go different places. We wear nice things, but mommy wasn't there. I didn't have that help and support that I needed. And so I had to get in the trenches. I had to make some connections. I had to be real and raw with myself. Like, I don't want to be at work and get that phone call, because it doesn't take much to be on the other side of the news. It just doesn't. When you have things happening and you realize that many of us are faced with things because, not a lot of the time is it by choice. Some things they're honestly by force. Now, I'm a big believer in that we all have some type of choice that contributes to where we're going. But sometimes we're in positions that are like we mentioned between the two of you, things are repetitive, or they can be cycles. They can come from a lineage of not knowing, a lineage of unlearning, a lineage of just repeated cycles based on comfort. And so you position yourself, and then you pass that mindset to your kids, and they pass it to their kids. And next thing you know, you have multiple generations of not knowing how to cope, not knowing how to thrive, not knowing how to survive, even knowing where to go to get the resources you need to thrive. And so when I'm working in the spaces that I'm in, so whether it's working directly with families or working directly with kids, or again, working with different organizations to help build platforms and establish resources, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the mindset behind how to elevate, how to, get in position to move forward and thrive. And so my biggest thing is to empower people by educating them but tapping even further into their mental and behavioral habits, because you can't expect someone to learn all that they can learn when in the back of their head life
Yes.
is happening. You can't tell me A plus A is 2A when I don't even know where my food is going to come from, or when
True.
I'm dealing with illness, or my parents are on their ends as well. So my goal is to create safe spaces for youth and families of youth to have those conversations, to let it out. So we're going to get this off our chest. We're going to get through some of these odd and harmful and painful conversations so that you can focus on the bigger dreams and you can actually envision yourself in the future. So yeah, I love that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, because
Yeah.
so much it's the inner dialogue
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
we all have an inner dialogue.
Hmm.
Absolutely. One of the things that I had to overcome, and whenever I say this, people go, "Oh yeah, exactly." I had to overcome the fact that I was beating myself up for all the things, mentally beating myself up for all the things I wasn't, rather than celebrating the things that I
What you
was.
There
had.
you go. There you go. I'm telling you.
That took years.
Yes.
And it's once in a while, it still jumps up to bite me. It's like,
Yeah.
Barbara, you're a child of God. He has it in control. And so go on.
Yeah.
But so often we do that to ourselves.
Hmm.
And until you really get in touch with that mental dialogue every day, because
Yeah.
every day it tends to be repetitive.
Yes.
And that's where I really want to work with people to get in touch with that inner dialogue.
It's funny you say that. I I call myself an accolade chaser, and I say that because I'm always looking for the next thing to do. You know, and my mom, bless my mom's heart, she has this thing. She's like, English. Now I know you've already done this, but I need you to take a break. And I'm like, okay, mom. She's my only living parent, so I don't want to let her down at this point. The next thing you know, I've picked up something else, and I had to sit, especially coming into 2023. I said, you know what? I have done a lot. And especially as a single mother, and especially coming from a broken home, and especially having suffered some mental ailment myself. I can say that I'm a published author. I can say that I have worked with and had conversations with city officials and government officials, and I've been able to say that I've headed different organizations throughout the Metro Atlanta area. I can say that I have a law degree. I can say that I am actually an educator, not just someone who speaks words and expects you to replicate, but I actually pour into people and I'm heard. I actually have family who loves me and praises and celebrates me. That in itself is worth glorifying and celebrating. So when
Mhm.
I came into 2023, I said, you know what? I'm actually going to take the time to celebrate myself this year. And
Yeah.
not just celebrate myself, but I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I'm worth celebrating. I'm going to walk in every room like God Himself ordained me and hand deliver the invitation, because I'm supposed to be here. And you have to understand that, so that not only are you a subject matter expert, but you are a star, and stars are not meant to be in boxes. So if you allow people to put you in those types of boxes, you will allow your light to dim. And baby, I'm not dimming in 2023. Oh no. I'm going to shine. I'm going to celebrate myself. I'm going to celebrate and elevate and empower others, because we need more people like that, so we can have these conversations, so we can pour into our parents, so we can pour into our parents' parents, so we can pour into our children to position them to be where we are. We need those voices to be heard, and we need authentic voices based on experience and not just script. And you'll see that a lot. So that's one of the reasons I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving the energy, because this is an energy based on true, authentic energy and wisdom and lived experience, and not just something that came from a textbook or a newspaper clipping. So
Yeah.
we're celebrating this year. We are.
Right.
Thank you, English, for saying that, because look at it this way. A lot of things that mold us are not taught in schools, like our lifestyles, like our values, like money.
Hmm.
So you see, you have an entrepreneur, They grind their backs and they make the first million and they give the children the best of lives, but they are not home to tutor the children on how to maintain that and pass it to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And after 2 or 3 generations, that money, look like it never existed because those values were not taught at the dinner table. We're not taught in the homes. The other parent was not inclusive. The other parent was like a housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the flip side, you look at the top Fortune 500 companies, the people who make the Forbes list, the people who've been in riches for 100 years, all of their values, and you see the funny thing, most of them are people of faith. Most of them are people of integrity. They have character, and their kids the same way, because it's a cycle. We've said it, it's a cycle. So what I know, I teach to my children, they teach to the next generation, because it is something that we learned and we think it's important to pass it down. So when Simone is saying, I want to be an involved parent, it's not because she doesn't want to go get more money, but it's because she doesn't want to be on the other side of the news, because I don't want to be on the news either. But it's very easy to be on the news because all of the children that made straight A honor rolls, did you see them on the news? No, you didn't. You saw the child who stole something at Walmart. You saw the person, the police division needs help catching this person. Please identify this person. That is what you see on the news. So none of us wants to be on the news, but it starts with our values. And then impacting the values to make sure that what we want for ourselves and our children stays the way it is in our minds. Because another thing is, you have a mindset of something and execution becomes something that you're stuck at. So if Barbara tells you need a coach, believe her, you really do. Because what's in your mind, to come out of your mind and be reality, that is a big challenge. And we need to overcome it, because we can all overcome it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think so many people are looking, like you hear, one of the buzzwords right now is purpose.
Yes.
And so often, like for myself, I kept thinking purpose was something big out there thing that, that's my purpose, and it's way out here. Well, yeah, no, your purpose is in here.
There you go.
In here. And one day, and I can remember one day I was listening to something about being out there, and this woman stood up and she said, you know what? My purpose, I realized, is in here. And my purpose is to serve God, to learn things, and then to teach others what I've learned. It was like one of my instant downloads. I went, she is absolutely talking to me. And I wish now I remembered her name, because I owe so much to her, but she spoke life into me, because she made me realize that my purpose is everything that I need in life is already inside me. And I think what happens is so many people get it backwards. They're going to do this to have this, and then once they do this and have that, they're going to be this. No. Now I've realized it's totally the opposite. You have to be who you're going to be. When you are the person that you're supposed to be, then you will do the things that you're supposed to do. And once you do the things you're supposed to do, then you'll have the things that you're meant to have. And it's like, and so many people are like, oh, you're right. And once and it's so wonderful when you see the light bulb go on, that they get it for themselves.
Yeah.
So you mean I can be who I'm meant to be, and I can be happy, and I can be fulfilled, and I can be adventurous, or I can be quiet, or I can be, whatever. Yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And you can be happy about that. You can be happy about that. Yeah. I know
Yes.
on my podcast I let the kids have the floor, and my podcast is called Off the Clock. And basically, that's a space where I allow youth, and primarily youth, they're my shining stars. I allow them to come into the space, and it's a safe haven for them. Like, we're going to talk about it all. Just like we're able to have these conversations with one another, I want us as leaders and professionals to be able to cater these very conversations to youth, right? And
Right.
one of the topics that'll be coming up is the impact of social media and
Oh,
speaking
yeah.
to how to be authentic in a very socially driven world. And like you were saying, Barbara, like being authentic with yourself, because if I sit over here, I can change my name on the screen to Barbara Ellison all I want to. And I can walk out of there outside and I can pretend and claim to be Barbara. But then if I walk and talk and act like Barbara, I might receive only those blessings that are intended for Barbara's personality. Inwardly, I'm not happy with that because I'm not
Right.
Barbara.
You're
I'm
not.
not Barbara. So I want to be able to have these conversations with kids and be like, yes,
You,
this person has 10 million followers and you're trying to mock and cater to what they're doing, but is that what you want to do? How does it make you feel to try to walk in someone else's shoes?
that's
Because
right.
baby, you don't know how high those heels are. You don't know how rugged the soles are. So you want to get in your own shoes and travel your own path and be happy with that, because guess what? Like you said, your purpose is inward. I was a part of an organization called Self Discovery, Pain, Positioning, and Purpose. And the irony in my membership at the time, I was on the board, was that I was going through some of the hardest times in my life, and I could not for the life of me understand why. I was in a space where I was in pain, and I didn't understand that my pain was positioning me for moments like this. I didn't know that. But had I shivered and cowered from who I truly am, I would have never known, because I would have been faking the funk
Mhm.
and I would have been walking in something that was uncomfortable. I had to really get authentic and be okay with my scars so that I can have these conversations. And I want these kids to be comfortable and to be themselves. But even more so, I want us as adults to give them that fuel to be themselves. Now, I'm really big on respect, but I do feel that we could do more in making youth feel more comfortable with being themselves and being okay to make errors.
Yeah.
I don't think we realize is that we're in a televised state. So we've made the same mistakes, but it's just now we see it. We see it because it's everywhere. And just being cognizant of that fact and allowing these young generations to be comfortable in their skin. Because once we can build that bridge and make that connection, then we can pour more into, how can you become more financially stable, mentally stable? How can you pursue your goals? And what does it look like to retire? Because a lot of these children, I hate to say it, can't even see themselves past 20 years old. So we
Exactly.
can't speak retirement if they don't even think they're going to make it out of a 4-year college situation, or they don't even think they're going to make it to the driving age or the age to buy cigarettes. I don't smoke, but you know what I mean? Like
Right.
kids
Exactly.
they don't see beyond. I think one of you said earlier, a lot of us live in the now, and a
Yeah.
lot of our kids are stuck in now. So it's hard to speak future if we can't even dismantle the right now mindset.
Right. Yeah. Or they're so plagued with the negative side of now. There's negative, there's absolutely negative in the world. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have to, one of the things that I'm a positive intelligence coach, and one of the things that it's scientifically proven, they've done the research, they've done the science, that it takes 3 positives to overcome 1 negative.
Mm,
Say you are in a household and all you're hearing is the negative, the negative, the negative, the negative, and there's
mm,
not any of the positive. And the
Positives.
and the positive can be as simple as coming up to your child, putting your hand on their shoulder and saying, "Hi, how are you?" and smile at them. It can be that positive. It can be that small of a thing, but it
yeah,
offsets what they're automatically thinking in their brain. And it
like
comes
that.
out as well, who I'm not worthy, or that I'm the only one that feels this way, or and the well, what's wrong with me that I feel this way?
Right. Right.
And that's where we get caught up in the what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And if they don't get that out of it, all of it, well, if all of us don't, let's talk
Oh,
real.
yes. Oh,
I'm
yes.
74 years old, and I still have to say that I still have to come back about going, hey, Barbara, there is nothing wrong with you.
There you go.
You're just having a funk right now. And it's okay to be in a funk.
Yes.
But we are either taught to not be in a funk. You can't admit that you're in a funk.
Mm-hmm.
You can't admit that you're feeling inadequate, or you can't admit that you're feeling, well, why hasn't it happened for me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the comparison is so prevalent. And the kids, and that's where bullying comes in. We have a bullying epidemic in the world.
Yes, we do.
And it's
Yes, we
because
do.
kids want to feel better about themselves, so they pick on somebody that's smaller, different, whatever it is.
Deflecting.
They're
Oftentimes
deflecting
deflecting.
with that inner negative dialogue that they're learning,
Mhm.
that they're hearing. And of course, where does some of it come from? One day I came down the stairs, and multi-generational families. I live in a multi-generational home.
Mhm.
And one day I came down the stairs and I went, can't you what is that you are listening to? And it was a game, but
Mhm.
all it was shooting,
Mhm.
murder. It
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
like, turn it off. Turn
Yeah. Seriously.
it off. Everything about it was negative.
Mm. It embeds in you. It embeds in your spirit. And I think that's a lot of people don't understand how it's almost like the wind. If you could equate the things we hear and the things we see to messages on the wind, it's
Yes.
exactly that. When you're out in the open, you be amazed at things that are wafting past you and drifting past you and touching you in some sort of form or fashion. And some things are gonna stick and you not realize it. The sounds of those guns and the sound, just the thought of violence and how it's even exacerbated in the media is
Right.
promoted. You know,
Right.
it's desensitizing our youth. And I know for me, it's daunting to me, and for our older generations, our wiser generations, they've seen so much, I would imagine, to it's kind of unbelievable to where we've come. And then you have three different perspectives of what life looks like versus what it should look like. Like people don't people have become so acclimated to negative things that it's hard to think positive. So it goes back to what you were saying, Barbara, about that mindset of making it an everyday thing where you speak that positivity, or in repetition, make it a common thing, and you're brushing those negative thoughts out your head. And
Mhm.
even for me, when you mentioned not feeling like you're enough, or not always wondering why it hasn't happened to me,
Right.
and
Yeah.
one of my personal campaigns, or my internal campaign this year, has been, again, I am enough. I made a little poster, I put it on my bathroom mirror. Every morning I wake up, guess what I see? I am enough. And
Amen.
I stick to that and I ride with that, because guess what? I am. And like you said, after I hear it, say it, and see it so many times, I'm going to start to believe it. I'm going to start to walk like that. I'm going to talk like
Right.
that. And not only am I going to believe it, but because I believe it, it's going to radiate and people are going to agree. They might not admit it, but they're going to say,
Right.
man, it's something about her. It is something about her. And that's what we need more of. People who
Right.
are willing to, lean heavily on, feelings of adequacy and
Right.
positivity, and
Right.
being able to um spread that, not being selfish with that beautiful feeling,
Right.
being able to pass that along to the next person, and in this romantic idea that we can all live harmoniously. Those are my dreams, man. I think it's attainable, and I think that starting early is possible is going to be the key, because one of the ways to nip those generational curses in the bud is to get in as early as possible and not
Yeah.
letting those feelings of
Yeah.
inadequacy fester.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
So, the most important thing is for us to be grateful for what we
Yeah.
have,
Hmm.
Yeah.
because gratitude makes you see what you have.
Right.
But we, as human beings, we are stuck on what we don't have. So stuck that you don't see what you have.
Right.
So, for example, if I was looking at English, I would say, oh, I love her hair. I love this. I love, like I see everything she has that I don't have. And I look at Barbara and I'm like, her glasses are gorgeous.
Yes,
You
they
know,
are.
so, but you see, the
Yeah.
irony of life is if
Mhm.
there is a problem fair, like you have like the job fair and all of those fairs, so there's a problem fair. All the
Mm.
things I don't like about me are put in a basket and everybody does the same thing. You would be shocked at how little your problem is, because now I'll be trying to, stand closest to maybe Mike Zuckerberg because I'm thinking he has no problem. So I'll dump mine with him and grab but you would be shocked at the mountain of challenge he will be
Yeah,
bringing to the fair.
right.
So,
I
but
like
in
that.
my closet, I'm like, the worst thing is happening to me,
Mhm.
not knowing how good you have it. So just like I'm here looking at how good you all have it, but I might not know that you're also looking at how good I have it.
Right.
Right. That's right.
So if
Exactly.
everybody could just understand that, hey, be grateful for what you have, be
Right.
appreciative of the things that you have in your hands.
Mhm.
The more you show gratitude and appreciation for what you have, the more you attract what you don't have. But
Right.
when you think that you don't have nothing, you repel what you should have.
Right.
Mhm. I like
So
that.
if our kids and adults, no, adults now, if they know, they'll teach the kids. If they know,
Yeah.
they'll teach the kids. And then that way the cycle will be broken faster.
Right.
Because a lot of things that happen is because I want to be this, I want to do that, I want to.
Yes. I want.
Yeah.
But
Right.
what do
Right.
you need is the question. What do you need? And do you have what you need? Oh,
Yeah,
don't even get me
that's it.
started.
You have what you need.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
most important thing. It's not what you want. What you want might not matter.
You can't do one of my things. I mean, you cannot take it with you.
That's
There you
it.
go. Sure can't.
You can't take it with you. There's no, there's no hearses. There's no, U-Hauls in heaven.
No.
You take what your essence. And I
Yeah.
think that's what happens. So many people, they get so caught up in the, I always think of it, I was brought up in the, oh, well, what are the neighbors going to think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
neighbors going to think if you do that?
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I was brought up with, I was you mentioned my glasses. Did you know that professional women who are very, professional and with it don't wear red glasses?
Oh, oh,
Because you need to, as a professional woman, you need to be conservative and not, and not wear bright colors and sparkles. Well, guess what?
Wow. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
mhm.
Well, for most of my life, I believed it. For most of my life, I believed it. And
Yeah.
then it was like when, and several of my family members have said to me, "Oh, Barb, you've changed so much." And I finally said, "You know what? It's not that I've changed. I
You
have just
just
come
don't
onto
like.
my own. I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
comfortable in my own skin. I like
Yeah.
me, and the me that the other people like around me love my red glasses, and they were like
Yes,
my
we
red
do.
lipstick and the fact that I have bright red toenails."
Very
You know? And that's where I want that's what my vision for people is, to be so
good.
comfortable in their own skin that, okay, if somebody likes you, that's wonderful. That they're come into my tribe and let's have
Yeah.
fun together. If somebody doesn't like it and thinks I'm unprofessional and whatever, well, they're not my tribe.
There we
That's okay.
go.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, but
Yeah.
and that's so important. So important. This has been absolutely fabulous, ladies. I can't believe we've already been talking for over 45 minutes. Yeah, but
Right.
that's why this is such an important subject.
Yeah.
Such an important subject. So really for you out there, if you're listening to this and for the year, we're going to be sharing it out on replays and all of that from all of us. But if you're listening to this and you think that this is a subject that you would like to talk about with people that you know, then reach out to me. I would love to have you come on as a guest, bring your friends, however, up to 5 people and because the conversation is what's important. We need to be getting this out there to the world to let people know that they're not alone, that they're not alone in feeling frustrated or that, like, what's wrong with me that I'm not happy? I have everything. And I can remember feeling that way. And it was for such a long time, it was like, what's wrong with me that I'm not happy? I have a beautiful home. I have a business that's helping people. I have a husband. When I had my husband, and then and it was like, well, and what's wrong with me that I'm not feeling fulfilled? And then I lost my husband. Oh, then I was like, whoa. And that's what you're not alone. You're not alone. Get in touch with those feelings, let them surface, and then get help. And if you need professional help, absolutely. Absolutely. However, sometimes you just need a coach that's going to help you through and to bring them to the surface and let you work through them. Work through these feelings. So, ladies, any last words? That was my last word. So any last words for the audience?
This was so fun. Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you so much, English. So for me, what I'll say is this. The news is always the negative things that happens in the world, but there's a lot of positive things that are happening as well. So you try to make sure that you balance what information it is that you receive. So even though there's so much negativity out there, you owe yourself the responsibility to put some positives in your life. But now this is it.
And so we've had some comments in here.
Yeah. So now this is it.
Absolutely.
If you see the news and then you have a thought, like before you close your eyes to go to bed, if this happened to me, what will be the fate of my family? Because a lot of the things that happen in the news, those people don't die. Those people leave. But now, because you have not put in any income replacement option, you don't know what to do. Now you're stuck by yourself. And the bills won't stop coming.
Right.
So if that flashes in your mind when you see something negative happen in the news, oh, there was a crash at I-85. And then if that crash were to be your car, what will happen to you? You can't go to work for 2 months. Please do reach out to me.
And there's her information to reach out to Elizabeth. Be sure and do it.
Yes, because I will teach you how to plan to be old and be happy and rich. Because riches is not so much about the money. Riches are all of the blessings that you have that you just don't count. Thank you.
Oh, you are most welcome.
Yes. Oh, so my last words, final thoughts from me, rather. The difference between things that are mediocre and those that we find to be majestic is your mindset. Perspective is everything. As a mental and behavioral health advocate, I believe in dismantling those old ideas that serve as a barrier between who you are now and the better version of yourself that you want to be. So if you, like I tell my students, if you ever want to kick, scream, fuss, or cuss, you have a safe space to do so. It's okay to be imperfect, but what's not okay is to beat yourself down because of your personally perceived imperfections. So come into the safe space that I've created, whether it's on my social media platforms across Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok and LinkedIn. You can find me at English Simone Official. And you can also tap into my podcast from time to time, get in these
Mhm.
conversations. One of my mentors said, it's just a matter of getting in the conversation. We normalize being okay with who we are, imperfections and all. So, you know, allow yourself to be you and be authentic and walk in your purpose, and you will be amazed at
Mhm.
how it feels and how you will begin to attract all the blessings that you deserve, and the magic will explode in front of you. So, be you, be true, be empowered, and be well.
Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And really, if you're listening to this, please, I would really encourage you to reach out to any one of us. There, all of our contact information is in the comments, and just reach out, because just know that you are not alone. And sometimes one of my favorite sayings is that you don't know what you don't know until someone else tells you something that you don't know. And sometimes you just need that little tweak, like with my lady that talked about her purpose. It went from being out here to in here. And that was all I needed to go, oh, right. And it's that it can be that fast. And once you get that little spark, then everything else will fall into place. But you have to start somewhere. So, ladies, this has been a blast. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for listening. And I welcome you, if you want to come on and do this show like this with me. Feel free to reach out again, and absolutely would love to have you. And we will talk to you soon. So, see you next time on Striving to Thriving. And make sure that you redefine your idea of success. And hope you were enjoyed today, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.